let it grow. I'm at war with it, but it's hard to let it go.
This is a weapon review.
Man, I am having a blast with this weapon. How's it rolling, everybody? I am 1LHD and this is a weapon review. Today we got a special guest in the building. Everybody give it up for the Atalanta-D. The Atalanta-D is a member of the 600 RPM precision frame family of submachine guns in the kinetic slot. And if you didn't know, precision frame is basically counterbalance, so there's literally no need to use a kinetic counterbalance mod while you have this weapon equipped. This little beast is rocking some very beautiful sights in the form of GA post, a short zoom iron sight that grants bonus points of handling at the cost of a range decrease, and SD thermal, a thermal imaging scope with a medium zoom that highlights enemy targets. Again, I made it pretty obvious that I like both of these sights, but I have a small bias towards holographic sights. For that reason alone, I exclusively use the SD thermal sight, not only because I prefer how it looks, but also because it grants a fairly decent boost of range. Range and stability are what I always prioritize on submachine guns, and even though this game tells you that you're losing a decent chunk of handling, the handling points that you lose with SD thermal won't have that much of an effect on your combat performance. For magazine perks, we have extended mag and steady rounds. Before I even review these perks, I have to say that I'm overjoyed to review a weapon and actually like both of the magazine perks. Extended mag will grant you a small boost of range and 3 extra rounds in a magazine, but you will lose a pretty big chunk in reload speed and stability. I'm just gonna tell you right now, use steady rounds. It's very rare that I ever recommend a perk that cuts range, but the amount of range that you lose with steady rounds is almost unnoticeable, because you will see how much of a difference that big boost in stability really makes for this weapon. With steady rounds, the Atalanta-D has the highest stability of any kinetic 600 RPM SMG that I've ever used. Also, your magazine would decrease from 30 to 27, but that's also incredibly minor. However, any increase to range always counts, so if you prefer extended mag, that's definitely more than fair too. The final perk is tap the trigger, which increases this weapon's stability and accuracy on initial trigger pull. Basically what's happening here is that the Atalanta-D becomes a laser beam for roughly the first second that you pull the trigger. You'll be able to tell that this perk is in effect because you will get a notification along the left side of the screen. And as I tested how long this perk actually lasts, I was able to fire off the first 11 rounds from the magazine before the perk was no longer in effect. But this perk alone has a lot of jurisdiction of how often you'll win your gunfights. Combined with the precision frame intrinsic perk, you will notice how much more reliable this weapon's recoil pattern actually is. As you notice, I didn't provide any PvE gameplay here, and the reason why is because I briefly covered the air quotes uselessness and or lack of viability of submachine guns of this archetype in PvE in my review video of the Antia PD, which this weapon is basically a reskin of. So to sum it up, don't ever take this weapon into any PvE activity. I personally don't like using submachine guns in PvE at all because I feel like I'm doing them a huge disservice. This monster was built from the ground up for the Crucible, and that's where I suggest that you exclusively use it at. It has no perks or defining features that gives it a role in PvE or any utility in any PvE activity at all. In the Crucible, this weapon's fastest time to kill is 0.90 seconds, and all it'll take to put a Guardian down is 8 crits and 2 body shots. This is the first legendary weapon I received after the Curse of Osiris DLC dropped, and I instantly knew that it was gonna be a beast in the Crucible. I ran PvP for hours on end, and this weapon never left my kinetic slot. But that does it for this one, everybody. I am 1LHD, and this has been a weapon review. I'll catch you on the flip side. Keep it smooth.